What's going on, guys? It's MurderInc here talking about increased resistance. We saw it already in this what's next video. I think the part's coming up here, and they talk briefly about increasing resistance, what it can mean for the game, also a decreased resistance. Now this is something that we've asked for quite some time here, and I just streamed for a little bit, and the question is, what does this even mean? How could they possibly implement it into the game? So I wanted to discuss that a little bit because maybe you guys will have a better idea and like theory on how this is going to work, because I came up with some ideas, Twitch chat came up with some ideas, but it's a really hard concept to grasp. So I'm interested to see how they approach it, and I want your guys' feedback. Don't forget, if you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's get straight into the video. So here is my Lydia the Death Siren from the test server, testing out empowerment. This is a +4 champion. Now let's go over her stats. She has 865 resistance, and I do have 3 epic gear set pieces and 2 rare. Now the chest piece doesn't really matter. Helmet does matter a lot for resistance. So picture Lydia with this gear in the arena with her aura adding 100 resistance. That's 965 resistance. And you can say, Murder, all you need is increased accuracy. It's much harder to add that to a team than a lot of people think. With Hegemon, Torment forcing immunity gear, now you need high accuracy, immunity gear if the enemy team is running a warlord. All of these things come into account here. And now they're adding a way, let me see here, to increase resistance on top of that. So what is increased resistance going to be? Is it going to be like increased accuracy? Imagine me adding a 50% increased resistance buff to a 965 resistance Lydia the Death Siren. Just imagine that for 1 second. Okay, pretty scary stuff, not going to lie. Now, of course, this is an anomaly of the situation here because this isn't realistic at all. This is very high, but the overall idea and concept is going to be the same. That's a huge buff to resistance. And they also said they're going to add something that is going to have, I think it's the next part, decrease resistance to have an resistance. Maybe they meant half. Is this a typo here? Am I just saying this now? To have an resistance, to have a resistance. Okay, whatever that means, it is what it is. So we were trying to figure out how this is even possible. What are they going to do? So we have this notepad here that I'm slowly going to reveal. So let's consider a 980 resistance. Lydia the Death Siren, of course, a little bit different than we see here. So let's change it to true value 965. And then we're not even going to talk about increasing. So new champion, increase res, we'll call it 50% for now. It could be 25%. We're not really sure here, but this is what it's going to be. Is it going to be a new champion? Of course it is, because it's not currently in the game here. So with that being said, we've run into a couple of problems. Now, new champion number 2, decreased resistance. What's it going to be? 50%, or is it not going to be a percent? Is it going to be a flat amount? We kind of saw a hint where it said have your resistance. But one major thing that I did discuss on stream as well, I'll go over it really quickly here. Let me hit play. If you look carefully as this bottom taskbar disappears on the bottom right of the screen, work in progress may not fully match the live server update. This is something that the preview with Cirilla in it did not have before, and I always like pointing that out because it's really important to pretty much all gameplay. So it could be half. So let's just remove this and say have champion res, or it could decrease by a set amount, cannot drop below 0. Okay, so what are our options here? For me, I have option number 1, increase accuracy, strip buff, then decrease resistance, all in one skill. Now, this is why I approached option 1 this way, because you're going to need accuracy to apply decreased resistance. If that is the case, this would be really strong, because if it's just a debuff that you have to put onto an opponent, block debuff, and you're fine, right? And you can say, what if I run a strip champion before that? It's not going to help you if I'm running 965 resistance plus an increased resistance buff, you're just not going to be able to strip it. You need this champion first, which is why increased accuracy, strip buff, then decrease res all in one skill is kind of option number one that I thought of personally, that would just make the most sense to try to counteract what they're adding to the game with increased resistance. Option number two, a passive. Decrease resistance by, we'll say, half for 1 turn at the start of the battle. Maybe we can make it 2 turns. It's a little bit better, but that was another thing. You don't have to debuff any champions. This is just going to come straight out of the gate, and we'll just roll with it from there. This could be another viable option. Of course, it's only at the start of the turn, kind of like a hegemon, and what it offers, this would reset per round in dungeons, because if it was just at the start, actually I shouldn't say per round, it will refresh per wave of dungeons, because champions with text in their tooltips that say per round, they consider a round the entire battle, which is a poor choice of words in my opinion, but it is what it is. So moving on to option number 3, I kind of like this one a lot. I think someone in Twitch chat brought this up. Takes 15% of your allies' accuracies, then applies it to this champion, then applies the decrease resistance debuff or aura, whatever you guys want to call it, that's going to have the resistance of the opponents here. So this is all we can come up with, because there's really not a good answer. It's not going to be an actual aura. When I do say aura, I mean something, I don't really know who I can compare this to. You can kind of think of it like Torment. If you use an ability, you have a chance to get frozen, except for once whatever champion they pick to have this debuff or whatever it is go onto the field, their first turn, they're going to apply something that reduces the resistance, or it's going to happen at the start of the battle like Hegemon does with his passive, where he always goes first with that true speed. So with what I said here, give me your guys' thoughts and feedback. What do you make of all of this? How could they possibly add this to the game where it does in fact make sense? I'm not doubting them, of course. I'm sure since they did talk about it, they have a pretty good idea of how it's going to work. Maybe in decent balance with the game, but this is one of the first things that has truly stumped me in probably my raid career of over 2 years now. I just can't wrap my head around how they're going to make this not be some pointless thing and not make resistance completely broken, because resistance hasn't been a real viable meta for a very, very long time, because it was just too hard to get, and accuracy has always been heavily favored, especially with increased accuracy. Now adding an increased resistance buff, things can change, also depending on how hard it is to apply decreased resistance or have resistance, whatever they do want to call it. So what do you guys think? Give me your feedback. And like I said, just baffled. I'm completely baffled. Haven't been for anything in this game except for this, so I'm curious to see what you guys come up with, and I'm sure there's going to be expected great comments in the comment section here of what you think. So I'm going to leave you all with that. Give me some hot takes on what you think it could be, and the fact that this is going to be bound to new champions, kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but it is kind of a bad thing, making things a bit pay to win, because unless they rework old champions like maybe Tila Gormain, and they give these new skills to old champions, you're going to have to pull for these champions, which makes it, of course, pay to win, unless it's a fusion, and fusions can still be pay to win. So there's that whole argument there. That's definitely a valid argument to have when it does come to a topic like this. And one thing I just thought of while I was talking about this, what happens if you use the unbinding process, which means you sacrifice a champion for life tokens, on a champion who is getting rebalanced and buffed, like the equivalent of Cantrifin, Mashald, or Dracomorph? How bad is that going to feel? Or what happens if there's a champion in the life token shop that gets nerfed? I'm pretty sure, hopefully, praying, and I'm sure you guys will as well when I say this, they don't nerf anyone in the life token shop. That would be probably the worst, one of the worst things Plarium's ever done to this game. But it does raise the question, what's going to happen with the future rebalance patches? Are they just not going to give people the Mashal, the Dracomorph, the Cantrifon treatment anymore because the dupe system exists, and you could have empowered a champion that's going to get nerfed? They could be buffing a champion that you're empowered. So Another hot take, maybe that's something for a separate video, I'm not sure. That's definitely something to consider, because if we're sacrificing champions permanently to get something done and they end up getting nerfed, that's going to feel worse than, who is it that just got nerfed? I don't know how I can. Geomancer. Imagine that. Of course, everything was kind of neutralized in a way and people were fine after that second one. But imagine the first one happening, but that was a legendary champion that you +4. That's a huge investment, and a lot of players are going to be upset. So hopefully they considered this properly and it doesn't just kill all future nerfs and buffs to any champion, because no one wants to see that happen. Even buffs are going to be risky now, because like I said, what if you permanently deleted it as life token currency and now you're never going to have it again? Another hot take there. As always, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.